Good evening, everyone. It is now 5:30, and I will call this regular meeting of the Burnsville City Council to order. It is our tradition to stand for a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And there is no one in the council chambers, so we're going to stand and pledge allegiance, and then I will explain what's going on here at City Hall. So we will now stand a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening in this unusual way, in these most unusual circumstances. We are all experiencing this coronavirus crisis together. And as you know, government agencies, schools, businesses, and organizations around our country are being asked to take extraordinary measures to protect our communities from the spread of the coronavirus, known as COVID-19. Here at City of Burnsville, our number one priority always has been and continues to be the safety of our community and our staff. With that in mind, on Saturday, March 14th, I signed a proclamation declaring a local emergency due to the risk of the COVID-19 global pandemic. This declaration will allow city staff and public safety officials to quickly put plans into place should community containment or mitigation strategies become necessary, and may provide our city with access to additional funding or resources. It will allow us to respond to and recover from this situation as quickly as possible. We are committed to complying with recommendations from the CDC, state, and federal government to protect everyone's health. Current recommendations call for everyone to practice social distancing as much as possible. After thoughtful consideration, we have decided that the best way we can aid in that effort is to temporarily close all city facilities and cancel or postpone city-organized events and programs. Rest assured, our dedicated staff will continue working to provide public service as quickly and effectively as possible via phone and email. And that brings me to tonight's meeting, which is mostly being conducted virtually. All of our city council members are joining us via phone. We invite members of the public who may be watching this meeting online to call in if they would like to contribute during the public comment portions of our meeting. If you would like to speak during the public comments, you may call 651-372-8299. And let me repeat that number, 651-372-8299. Please note there is an audio delay if you are watching us on TV or online. So if you call in, please mute your video broadcast first. The city clerk will note for the record that all council members are present. And with that, I will now move on to the first item on our agenda. And that is the announcements. And all of our announcements have to do with our proclamation, with our meetings, and we have one proclamation. Regular council meetings are scheduled for Tuesday, April 7th, 5:30 p.m., and Tuesday, April 21st at 5:30 p.m. We have a work session that's scheduled for Tuesday, April 14th, 5:30 p.m. We also have scheduled a joint session with ISD 191 School Board and is currently scheduled for Thursday, April 16th at 5:30 p.m., but it may be postponed. We have a special work session that was scheduled for Tuesday, March 24th, and that has been canceled. So all regular meetings are held in the council chambers, but please be aware that things may change. We'll be flexible and nimble and pivot as we continue to experience this pandemic together. So our proclamation is for U.S. Census Day, April 1st, 2020. Whereas the U.S. Census Bureau is required by the U.S. Constitution to conduct a count of the population and provides a historic opportunity to help shape the foundation of our society and play an active role in American democracy. And whereas federal and state funding is allocated to communities and many decisions are made on matters of national and local importance based on census data. And whereas census data helps determine how many seats each state will have in the U.S. House of Representatives and is necessary for an accurate and fair redistricting of state legislative seats and other voting districts. And whereas Burnsville is committed to ensuring every resident is counted. And whereas the information collected by the census is confidential and protected by law. And whereas it is vital that all households in Burnsville complete and submit a census form because every resident of our community deserves to be counted. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Elizabeth B. Couts, Mayor of the City of Burnsville, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim April 1st, 2020 as U.S. Census Day and urge all residents of Burnsville to submit their census form and be counted. Proclaimed this 17th day of March, 2020. The next item on our agenda is citizens' comments. Is there anyone who wishes to address the council on an item that is not in the printed agenda and not in application form that will be coming before us at a future date? Mr. Venables, is there someone who wishes to speak at citizens' comments?
There is one caller online that has been unmuted at this time. I'm not sure who it is, but if it's a resident or somebody from the public, they can speak at this point.
Yeah. So are they muted now? Oh.
They're unmuted.
Okay, we have a member of the public who is in the queue and may be unmuted at this point. And so to our resident, if you wish to speak on citizens' comments, please let us know, but first unmute your line.
It's unmuted.
It's unmuted?
They should be fine.
So to that resident who, do you wish to speak at citizens' comment, or are you interested in another item of the agenda?
Interested in another item of the agenda.
Okay, can you tell us so that we know to come to you at that point?
It's just Mike Richter from Transit Team, consent item 4V.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. So you're not you're just making sure that 4B goes forward because it's on consent.
Correct.
Okay, so we will mute you again. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we don't have anyone who wishes to speak on citizens' comment. We now move on to the additions to the final agenda. And we do have one emergency item on the to be added to the final agenda. And Ms. Mescali, that item is?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Staff would request that council consider a resolution to extend the period of a mayor-declared local emergency. This was included in your council packet, but we would ask that you officially add it to the agenda.
Okay. May I have a motion to add this item to the agenda?
So moved.
Okay. Councilmember Gustafson makes the motion,
Second.
second by Councilmember Workman. And now, everyone, you know that I'm going to need a roll call vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand, and so the clerk can recognize and say aye. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Opposed, say nay. And the motion carries. Thank you. This item will be added to agenda item 5C. And now we move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a group of items that's considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. However, an item on the consent agenda can be removed for a separate discussion and vote. Is there anyone in the public who wishes an item to be removed for a separate discussion and vote? I don't believe that the gentleman wants to pull the item on the consent agenda, am I correct? He's just interested in making sure that it moves through. Okay.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you so much. And then the next, Ms. Muscoli, is there an item that staff wants to be pulled for a separate discussion and vote?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Members of the council, an item to be pulled for a separate discussion and vote?
None.
May I have a motion, please, to adopt the consent agenda?
Motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Councilmember Keely makes the motion.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Workman. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you, and the clerk has a unanimous vote of the House. Thank you. So the consent agenda is adopted, and now we move on to the first item on the regular agenda, and that's 5A. And this is a public hearing, and this is a resolution to adopt the second half 2019 Code Enforcement Assessment. Mr. Forsland, our Licensing and Code Enforcement Coordinator, is presenting this evening. Mr. Forsland.
Madam Mayor, council members, I hope the light of the week's news, everybody's in good health and with their families, and I hope that continues that way. What we're here to talk about tonight is the public hearing for the licensing code enforcement special assessments. We do have a city policy that addresses this issue. Special assessments are fees and cost items for code enforcement items such as mowing charges, reinspection fees, or late license fees, for example. And this would cover the second half of 2019, which would be from July 1st to December 31st, 2019. As part of our process, on February 18th, council called for creation of the rolls and calling for the public hearing, which is tonight. What we did at that point was, up to that point, we had mailed notices of assessments hearings out on February 21st to each affected property owner with those unpaid code fees, and also some details on if the property owner chose to object to those fees. We also invited all property owners to an open house on March 4th, 2020, to discuss if anybody had any concerns or additional issues with that. We had nobody appear. To this date, any property owners wishing to object must sign any written objection at the time of the public hearing or could waive their right to appeal. To the best of my knowledge, we have not received any written appeals, and at the time of this submittal, we're looking at a sum total of $5,190,
Well,
which is
substantially decreased from last time.
Yes, and what we're recommending is that at this time, staff or council approve the resolution and move forward with the assessment.
Okay, so I also want our public to understand that due to the COVID-19 health pandemic, Some residents may have limited access and not be able to comment at this time. So the council will be accepting comments and written objections for the record on this assessment for an additional 10 days until Friday, May 27th.
March 27th.
March 27th, so that everyone understands that. So because of the unusual circumstances we find ourselves in, we're making the exception and extending. So members of the council, do you have any questions for Mr. Forsland? Okay. Very good. With that, I would like now open the public hearing. And I now open the public hearing. And is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Mr. Venables, is there anyone online?
No, Madam Mayor, there is not.
Okay, there is no one online. And there is no one in the council chambers. And so with that, I will close the public hearing. And again, reiterate that due to the COVID-19 health pandemic, some residents may have limited access and not be able to comment. So the council will be accepting comments and written objections for the record on this assessment for an additional 10 days until Friday, March 27th. With that, I will close the public hearing. May I have a motion to adopt?
Madam Mayor, I have a question for clarification. In the extension of the 10 days for those to object, what is that date on the calendar, 10 days from today?
March 27th.
Okay. I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution approving the assessment roll for the code enforcement assessments from July 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2019 as proposed, with the additional 10 days to allow folks to file an objection against.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. May I have a second, please?
I will second that motion because I do want that extension.
With the extension. Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. Any other comments? Discussion? With not, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. And the motion carries. And the clerk has the unanimous vote of the House. Okay, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Forsland.
Thank you.
And great work. It looks like some things are working well in the way that we are communicating and working with our residents.
Absolutely.
You've changed your letters also. Thank you for humanizing them. And it seems like it's working well and collaborating with our residents and getting the compliances.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forsland. We now move on to the next item, and the next item is another public hearing, and this is 5B. This is a resolution vacating utility and drain easements at 1005 Kmar Lane as dedicated on the plat of Orchard Gardens Country Club Edition. And presenting this evening is Jen Desroot, our city engineer. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. So I have a brief presentation just to highlight the issues. On this plat of Orchard Garden Country Club Edition, there are drainage and utility easements along all side yard and all rear yard, and they're 10 feet wide on the plat. So this shows just that they're throughout the plat. Our typical easement that we dedicate on plats are 5 feet wide, but in this particular plat, they were dedicated at 10 feet on both the side and the rear. And then also, Lot 8, which is the subject of this vacation, at some point in time acquired 10 feet from the neighboring lot, Lot 9. And so in that acquisition, they also acquired an additional 10-foot easement. So on their side yard, they have 20 feet of utility and drainage easements, when it's typically just 5 feet. We looked and saw that there was no utilities in that easement, so there was no need to have such a wide easement. So like I had just mentioned, it's an extra wide easement that's not needed, and the applicant found out about this when they were trying to expand their garage. So they wanted a garage addition and were running into this extra wide easement. Dakota Electric was the only utility owner that had any concern, and their concern was with the rear yard. They have overhead power in the back, so we wouldn't vacate the backyard easement. We weren't proposing to do so. So the staff recommendation is to vacate the 20-foot utility and drain easement on the east property line, but then dedicate 5-foot drainage and utility easements on the side yard, which is standard, and 10-foot drainage and utility easements on the street side, which is also standard. And I stand for questions.
Very good. Members of the council, does anyone have any questions for Ms. Desrude? Seeing none, I will now open the public hearing. Mr. Venables, is there anyone in queue to speak to this item?
No, there is not, Madam Mayor.
Okay, we have no one in queue to speak to this item and no one in the chambers to speak to the item. I will now close the public hearing. Members of the council, may I have a motion to adopt, please?
Move to approve.
There's a motion on the floor,
Second.
and there's a second, so Councilmember Workman and Councilmember Keeley. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Aye.
And the motion carries. Thank you. We now move on to item 5C. Item 5C is a resolution to extend the period of a mayoral declared local emergency. Ms. Mascali.
Madam Mayor and Council, you have the authority, Madam Mayor, to declare a local emergency that can be in effect for up to 3 days, but then the council needs to ratify that action. We have before you a resolution which would memorialize that. Action would then invoke our disaster plan that we have in place. With that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Members of the council, you have questions for our city manager, Ms. Lee? Seeing none, may I have a motion, please, to adopt and
Motion to
ratify the
adopt.
declaration? Councilmember Keeley makes the motion.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Workman. And may you please raise your hand. May all in favor please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. And the motion carries. Thank you so much. Members of the council, there are no other items to come before us this evening, and a motion to adjourn is in order.
Move to adjourn.
Councilmember Gustafson makes the motion.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Workman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, say nay. And the motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for being with us this evening. Stay safe, stay healthy, and enjoy your isolation. Good night, and thank you for being